What is up, folks? How's it going? This is Watch from MW Technology, and today we're going to be taking a look at the best ANC/spatial audio headphones that you can get right now in 2024. Specifically, we're going to be taking a look at the Sony WH-1000XM5s, the Bose QuietComfort Ultras, as well as the AirPods Max. We're going to be taking a look at the price, overall design, comfort, audio quality, and we also found a pretty cool way to measure the hear-through as well as the ANC that each headphone is capable of to see which system is best in terms of overall performance. So if you're interested, let's get into it. Now, firstly, I just want to go through the basics of each three of these headphones, starting with the price point. Now, the Sonys are typically the cheapest. You can find them for under $400 on most retailers. The Bose Ultras usually go for about $430, and the AirPods Max are MSRP for about $550, but they're sometimes available in renew or on sale on Amazon, for example, for under $450. But in most cases, the AirPods Max are always going to be the more expensive option. But with that higher end price point, you definitely get headphones with a greater level of build quality and material design thanks to the aluminum construction, high quality mesh fabrics, and the weight is significantly more than the plastic Sony and Bose. At 385 grams versus Bose and Sony, weigh both about 250 grams. Now, the durability advantages aside, there's obviously a disadvantage in terms of overall comfort. Some people don't want such a heavy duty headset, especially if they're going to be wearing it all day, and that's where the advantage of a lighter plastic construction comes into place with the Bose and Sony. Now, if I were to choose which one I think is the most comfortable on my head, I certainly think that the QuietComfort Ultras offer the best overall cushioning both on the headband and ear cups themselves, unlike the Sony, which have like a thin headband at the very top, which is fine but can be a little bit irritating for me personally, especially after long-term usage. And you get a rubberized texture surface on the outer ear caps themselves on the Sony, which is a fingerprint magnet and leaves smudges really easily and is probably not going to age too well. Now, unfortunately, like it or not, if you're going to wear these in public, they become kind of a fashion accessory and carry some stigmatism, especially when you consider the design of the AirPods, which are very unique with their squared off look and sometimes convey a cringy message of, hey, look at me, I spent a lot of money on my headphones. The Sony and the Bose, on the other hand, look very generic and don't have that same stigmatism. Like it or not, however, the design is actually pretty well thought out when it comes to ergonomics and controls. With the AirPods Max, you basically have a digital crown interface, which is great for volume control and media playback, and a single button for controlling things like listening modes. It's really easy to access and just on one ear cap. There's no power button to worry about since the headphones automatically go into low power mode when not in use, either stationary or in their carrying case, and I found that the battery life is impacted fairly minimally. The QC Ultras are probably the worst in terms of the overall button design and layout. You have two small buttons on the lower right for power as well as mode switching. There's also a capacitive strip for volume and media playback. When you're wearing the headphones, each button kind of feels the same and it's quite difficult from a functional and accessibility standpoint. The Sony XM5s are a little bit better in terms of overall button layout and accessibility, but generally not as good as the Max. Now, when it comes to battery life, there's a pretty clear winner over here, and that's the Sony WH-1000XM5s. Not only can you turn off the ANC to get 40 hours of playback, but with them on, you get 30 hours. And if you want to use them passively, you can use them pretty much forever since they have an analog connection built inside if you still have a headphone jack that you use. The Bose, on the other hand, have ANC on all the time and you get about 24 hours of playback time. AirPods Max battery life is rated for 20 hours with either ANC or transparency mode on, and you can turn those features off, but I didn't find that it really impacted battery life that much, which is kind of unfortunate given how big and bulky they are. Now, in terms of the wireless tech, the cool thing about a Bluetooth 5.2 and 5.3 that's in the Sony and Bose respectively is that you can actually connect two Bluetooth devices simultaneously, so you have that flexibility of multi-device usage at the same time. Obviously, you can remember many devices on all three of these headphones and switch manually between them, but that's an inherent advantage that's not available on the Max yet. Now let's talk about the spatial audio capabilities of all three of these headphones. Now what spatial audio is it takes a standard isolated left and right stereo track and virtualizes it to something that would replicate reality, which is typically when when you're listening to something in real life, you're in a space with given reflections and echoes, and your left and right ear is hearing something slightly different based on the audio source. Ideally, you want to be in a medium to smaller size room with speakers a few feet away from you, pointed at you at a 30-degree angle, and that's what most of these headphones are trying to replicate, either in a fixed or tracked position. Fixed means that the audio source does not change with head movement, and track means that it's taking the tracking data from the headphones to alter the sound that comes from your left and right ear to give you an impression of space, sound, and time. Now, I do have to claim that pretty much any headphone can become a spatial audio headset. It just needs the right software to do so, and it depends if the company wants to integrate that software within the product itself, and that's where I think Bose and Apple do a better out-of-the-box experience compared to Sony, which does have spatial audio with head tracking, but it only works with certain apps, versus the AirPod Max and the QC Ultras have them built inside their native apps, and they work no matter what you're doing on your smartphone. Now, the spatial audio performance on all three of these is fairly good, but if I had to pick a winner, I'd probably go with the AirPod Max. Not only is the track position very accurate in terms of replicating a virtual listening experience, but also the fixed position is actually the most coherent and seamless. Every time you move your head, there's no weird shift that I typically find with Sony and Bose, and it feels a lot more coherent, seamless, and a lot more attached to your head, versus the music feels a little bit more floaty at times with the Bose and Sony, especially in the fixed audio, spatial audio position. Now, the audio quality and performance in our standard headphone mode sounds great on all threes, but I do have to say that the Bose and AirPod Max sound a little bit more neutral from a frequency response standpoint. There's a little bit more lower mids, I find. Naturally, in the 1000XM5s from Sony, there is a great 5-band EQ built into the native Sony app, which you can change different presets or set your own custom ones, which is pretty good, but there's a little bit more color naturally built into the driver, which I don't find on the Bose and AirPod Max, which sound really nice, very neutral, and a great standpoint, certainly a little bit more hi-fi oriented than the Sonys based on what I could hear. Okay, so now what we're going to do is a little audio test of the hear-through and ANC. First, we're going to see how it handles human voices. So right now, I'm just simply talking to you guys, and I have a wireless lav mic inside the left ear cap, and we're right now in the hear-through mode on the QuietComfort Ultras. We're going to switch into active noise cancellation to see how that sounds.
Immersion. Quiet.
Now we're to the active noise cancellation. You can see if my voice has been muffled and if the background noise has been greatly reduced. We'll switch over to the other ones to see how they sound. Okay, so now what you're listening to is the Sony 1000XM5s in the hear-through mode. We're going to switch over to ANC now. Now we're to the ANC mode, and you'll now hear the difference between my voice as well as potential background noise reduction as well. Let's switch over to the AirPod Max and see how those sound. Okay, so now we're using the Max in the hear-through mode. We'll switch over to ANC, but one thing I did notice is the Max is generally a little bit louder in terms of its hear-through mode, and the ANC is not bad as well. So now we're in the ANC mode, and you'll notice if my voice is significantly muffled and if the background noise is more reduced compared to the other two headphones. Now what I want to do is actually go through a static noise test where we're going to play the exact same noise on all three headphones and see how the hear-through and ANC handles that.
Quiet.
Now, after reviewing the results, I would have to say, for me personally, I think the clear winner is definitely the Apple AirPod Max. Basically, in terms of the hear-through mode, you can see that the waveform is quite a lot fatter. You're getting a lot more frequencies throughout the spectrum, and you're getting that sense of awareness that is typically not being seen, certainly on the Sony being the worst, and Bose being a kind of a closer second place. In terms of the ANC capabilities, one of the things that also make the AirPod shine is it it has really good passive seals on the ear caps to your side head surface. So that's one of the reasons why you can actually hear my heartbeat very distinctively on the recording itself, versus it's not that present on the other headphones. And if we draw out the frequency response curve on an EQ chart, you can see that the Max and the QuietComfort Ultras are very similar in terms of the frequencies that they're canceling out, and the overall level of cancellation is quite similar as well. But if you can tell from the waveform and also in reality, I do find that I'm hearing less overall extraneous noise on the Max compared to the Bose, based on what I've experienced thus far, but they're pretty close in terms of their noise cancellation capabilities. Unfortunately, the Sony WH-1000XM5s, I know they're a little bit dated these days, and perhaps when Sony upgrades these, they'll be more comparable to the other two, but a disappointment nonetheless. Now, in conclusion, I think the Bose and AirPods come out on top. They're just better overall out of the box, and certainly have more capabilities when it comes to the spatial audio, as well as the ANC capabilities. And if you're looking for a neutral sounding headphones, they're a little bit better than the Sonys as well. Now, which one would you pick? If the AirPod Max were around the same price as the Bose, which they sometimes are on Amazon, you can get them around $450 instead of the $550 that Apple usually sells them for MSRP. I think I would probably go with the AirPod Max, just because it does have the best hear-through mode and really great ANC, and I love the audio quality. I think if you were to factor the fit and finish and material design of the AirPod Max, you probably can have it for many years and not have any issues. So it's definitely a pretty good investment from that standpoint if you can get it at that price point. But as it stands, if you're going to have to pick one headphones straight out of the box, as they are, regular price, the Bose QuietComfort Ultras is probably your safest bet for the best overall ANC capabilities, good spatial audio, good sounding neutral audio performance, as well as the overall package and value is certainly worth it. But besides those things, that's really it. Definitely love to know what you guys think is the best ANC/spatial audio headphone that's available right now. Which one would you pick if you had the choice between the three? And if you haven't done so already, please make sure you've liked, subscribed, and shared the video. Check out the description down below for more details about everything we talked about, and we'll see you real soon in the next one. Take care.